This is Qtv News and I am Jenna Bosonko. Thank you for joining us. First, the main local, international and business news headlines. President Barrow has used his end-of-year speech to look back on the troubled year of 2020, as well as to look forward with hope to 2021. As the revelers around the Gambia get ready to welcome in the new year, we hear how the police hope to keep everyone safe at one of the most popular locations. We hear from New Year's messages from the heads of the Methodist, Anglican and Catholic churches in the Gambia. A witness at the TRRC tells the Commission of her ordeal after being arrested and detained for 8 days after going to support UDP leaders who were facing court proceedings. A coalition comprising civil society organizations, National Assembly members and members of the public have had a dialogue on the 2021 national budget. In business news, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs has issued a press release about changes in fuel prices that will take effect from 1st January 2021. In international news, an Ethiopian immigrant in Italy who ran a successful farm business has been found murdered at her farm. Those were the top stories, and now the news in detail. Do stay with us. Thank you for joining us. Now the news in detail. President Barrow has used his end-of-year speech to look back on the troubled year of 2020, as well as look forward with hope to 2021. He touches on a wide range of subjects and uses it to make a clarion call of unity among Gambians to develop our country. Here are two excerpts.
We now have to begin a stock-taking process to assess and evaluate our performance so far. This is necessary to inform the next steps, especially for designing a long-term successful plan. The process calls for the participation of all categories of citizens, both within and out of government circles. The need for transparency and accountability should compel us to create an inclusive and participatory climate, with the required public space open and wide enough to accommodate all sets of ideas, expertise, and skills. 2020 was clouded by the pandemic. It was a year of politics, debate, and dialogue as we venture into crafting a new constitution for the Third Republic. All is not lost, since we still have the opportunity to produce another draft constitution at the appropriate time.
That speech can be seen in full immediately after this news bulletin. On New Year's Eve each year, people go out in large numbers to celebrate and welcome the new year. But in Greater Banjul area, everyone wants to do this in Senegambia. We engage the police on the safety measures put in place to protect revelers. In the Greater Banjul area, many people prefer to celebrate and welcome the New Year in Senegambia because of the several facilities available there, but unfortunately, Senegambia can't accommodate everyone. The police and other security agencies have come up with measures to ensure a smooth and peaceful New Year celebration.
The plans that we have put in place, includes diversions, roadblocks, and cordons of the areas, some of the areas that we deem, gathering, So, and again, we have also intensified patrols along the beaches, where, we always feel that is the main hideout for the criminals during this period. And also, by extensions, in some of the secluded areas within Senegambia also will be covered, during this period to ensure that, safety and, security prevails.
Mr. Drama added that parents should take the responsibility to keep their children at home or accompany them if they want to go out, to avoid children going missing.
We know very well that children are the susceptible people, particularly this, kind of events. So because of that, we would like to advise the parents to advise their kids, against coming to, to these, particular programs. Because whenever they comes there, most of the times, they are being targeted by the criminals, especially if they are carrying expensive mobile phones with them, So, and they are equally, vulnerable as, our girls as well. Mostly these are the, type of people that are being, victimized in these events. So we would like to, appeal to the parents in particular to make sure that, they visit their children, from attending these events.
The public are reminded that coronavirus still exists and precautionary measures are advised, such as the wearing of masks and hand washing. But is physical distancing possible at a time and events featuring large gatherings? The presiding bishop of the Gambia Methodist Church has urged followers to embrace the new year with hope and confidence. Reverend Anna Caroline Falheim made these remarks in her New Year's message. More in this report by Babakar Sise.
In her New Year's message for the year 2021, Bishop Falheim says in this season of Christmas and at the beginning of the new year, people should celebrate the vision which inspired the hope of the people of God, sustaining them 2 centuries, has finally come true. She welcomes the new year with hope.
Let us walk together into this new year 2021 with hope, courage, and confidence. And let us receive with gratitude God's blessings for a new year, that we may gain strength, protection, good health, and happiness. May the new year 2021 bring you peace, joy, and prosperity.
Bishop Falheim added that we should reflect on the countless blessings of God and be grateful for what God has done for us.
There is so much we can be grateful for. Think how God has protected you, how He has provided for you and your family, and count your many blessings, naming them one by one, and be grateful to God. And then let that gratitude inspire you to be compassionate and generous to others in turn. Trust God that He can use all of us to make this nation and the world a better place in 2021, especially for the children and youths.
The year 2021 marks the 200th anniversary of the establishment of the Methodist Church of the Gambia in the year 1821. Bishop Falheim explains the good tidings the church has brought to the people over the years.
The mission of the Methodist Church during the past 200 years has been to bring the love of God to our people. We have done this inspired by Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, by establishing schools and medical services, as well as agricultural initiatives.
Bishop Falheim concluded by praying for everyone.
May God grant you all a blessed new year 2021. Shalom, shalom.
Babakar Sise, Qtv News.
The Bishop of the Anglican Diocese of the Gambia has said that our resolution for the new year must be to love one another just as Christ loves us. The Right Reverend James Allen Joe Adiko made the remarks in his New Year's message to Christians. Babakar Sise again.
Friends, Jesus loves us. He told his disciples that there is no love greater than to lay down one's life for one's friends. He demonstrated this love on the cross of Calvary. He died to redeem us from the slavery of sin and death and to give us eternal life. We only need to have faith in him and claim the promise. Jesus describes his friend as those who follow his command, which is to love one another as he loves us. John chapter 15, verses 13 and 15 to 15.
The Bishop of the Anglican Diocese of the Gambia also said that the year 2020 will be recorded as one of the most nerve-wracking periods in global history due to the COVID-19.
The COVID-19 pandemic has not only been a grave distraction to global development, but has caused distressing political, social, and economic wounds in the world, causing enormous physical and mental pain on the human race. What is most shocking and threatening is the sharp surge in the second wave of confirmed new COVID-19 cases that tends to be unrelenting, particularly in the major economies of the globe.
Bishop Odiko also spoke about the draft 2021 Constitution Promulgation Bill and to put our country first for the 2021 election.
Fellow Gambians, if we apply love in the new window of opportunity to review the draft for the 2021 Constitution Promulgation Bill, we will objectively exercise justice to this crucial document, putting aside our political, religious, and all anti-development interests, and will prudently consider the equal rights and dignity of all for the common good of our beloved nation.
The Right Reverend concluded by wishing the President, Muslims, and people of other faiths a fruitful and blessed New Year. Babakar Sise, Qtv News.
Also in his New Year's message, the Catholic Bishop of the Diocese of Banjul, the Most Reverend Dr. Gabriel Mendy, has said that from 8th of December 2020 to the 8th of December 2021 is a special year declared for St. Joseph by the Holy Father Pope Francis. More in this report.
The Catholic Bishop of the Diocese of Banjul said Joseph was God's obedient servant who had no reason whatsoever to doubt or ignore God's will because he was open and obedient to God in the crucial moments of his life.
His humble and faithful obedience to God was what Pope Francis said influenced the child Jesus. He said in his apostolic letter Patris Corde that during the hidden years of Nazareth, Jesus learned at the school of Joseph to do the will of the Father. That will was to be his daily food. Even at the most difficult moment of his life in Gethsemane, Jesus chose to do the Father's will rather than his own will. St. Joseph was therefore an admirable and worthy model of obedience and humility to even Jesus, the Son of God and Savior of humanity.
Bishop Mendy urges followers to follow the footsteps of Joseph and not to be discouraged when in a difficult situation.
We will also be in similar situations of disappointment, isolation, and uncertainty like St. Joseph, the husband of Mary and the foster father of Jesus. We are consequently encouraged by Pope Francis to follow the example of St. Joseph and be willing to listen, to rely on God's guidance, and humbly obey his instruction or command that he reveals to us. Some of us will eventually experience or be involved in problems or matters we cannot fully understand, like St. Joseph. Like St. Joseph could not understand the cause of Mary's pregnancy.
Bishop Mendy concluded by wishing believers of Christ, members of the Muslim community, and believers of other faiths, Gambians at home and abroad, a favorable new year. Babakar Sise, Qtv News.
We will take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we will take a look at more local and international news stories. Do stay tuned. Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV News. A TRRC witness on Thursday told the commission that she was among the people arrested by the paramilitary during the trial of the UDP leaders who demonstrated about the arrest of Solo Sandeng. Babakar C has the rest of that.
Sukai Dahaba told the commission that she was part of the group of people who carried a calabash and a broom, calling themselves the Kalama Revolution, during the trial of the UDP leaders in April 2016. In one of the court hearings, the witness said they walked from Banjul to the Bone Road Johnson, only to be picked up by the security agents, put in a truck and dropped at Iceman opposite the paramilitary headquarters. It was then that the paramilitary fired tear gas, forcing them to run in different directions.
I
went out and I wanted to go away.
Para kambano nada.
A paramilitary young man came to me.
Baro para nyi.
But that person, he told me, yes, I have arrested you. You are the person bringing all this trouble on us.
Saying anatana pipe.
Now he took out a pipe. He struck me on my legs first. But the time that he was hitting me, I had already had an operation before.
Saying,
he hit me and hit me again. Then I decided to put my hands in front of me so that the pipe will not hit my stomach.
The witness further stated that while being detained at the paramilitary headquarters, the officers again fired tear gas inside the room where they were being held, causing health complications for some of them. For 8 days, her family did not know where she was until she appeared at the Kanifing Magistrate Court, she added. Sukai Dahaba said they were granted bail and asked to report to court on given days. On arriving at home looking weak and having lost a lot of weight, she added that her 2-year-old son could not even recognize her. One night, she said, unknown men came to her house at night.
One of them came and hit me. He broke my drawer. When he broke it down, my business money was in that drawer.
$381,000.
$381,000. He took all that money. When he took it up, he looked at the other man. They just signaled one another. When they were going out, he was having a syringe which he used to inject me.
She said she doesn't know the substance injected into her body, but it really caused her a lot of problems, and she decided to leave the country for Senegal with her children.
Because the situation of my body, my health, it's all because of Yaya Jammeh's rule.
She stayed in Senegal for 8 months with her kids, enduring a lot of hardship, and only came back home after the change of government following the 2016 presidential elections. Babu Karsi, Qtv News.
A coalition on budget transparency made up of civil society organizations, including National Assembly members and private citizens of the Gambia, have held a dialogue on the 2021 national budget. Among other subjects featured in the forum were fiscal transparency, government accountability, and citizen participation in the budget process. Mohamed Lamin Choi has the rest of that.
After the budgetary process at the National Assembly in the last few weeks, these taxpayers from different walks of life are gathered for a dialogue on a national policy document that defines how government will raise and spend money on our behalf in 2021. Filling the gap between government and the citizens for a participatory budget process is one of the goals of these Gambians.
We want there to be an open budget dialogue where citizens are going to make their inputs regarding what they want to see in the upcoming fiscal year budget. And the government to take in those inputs, go to the cabinet and inculcate some of these inputs that are feasible in the budget, and then report back to citizens how they have used this input, so that the dialogue will not be just a form of a consultation, but the government will come back and then inform the citizens how those inputs are being used in the budget. And as a result, if this is going to be the case, we will get to see most pressing issues that our communities are being faced with being addressed in the budget.
Citizen participation in the national budget should be one of the essentials of a democratic process that guides government to prepare a budget that is reflective of the wishes and aspirations of the taxpayers on whose behalf it raises and spends money. This, however, has never been part of government's action in the budget process. At this forum, citizens are offered the knowledge on how to get involved and hold government accountable on the budget.
We understand that due to the low literate level when it comes to issues of budget, it might be a problem to understand some technicalities. But then there are certain issues that are very much general. For instance, we have allocations that have been made, but is it used in the best interest of the citizens? For instance, we say 1% of the budget goes into education. So as education is, or as people that are into that area, how is the budget being used into the best interest of that which it has been allocated for? So I think paying close attention to government activities is one way that we are able to put our hands on deck to know what exactly is going on. For instance, we have the Follow the Money initiative. There you're able to understand, and they make quarterly reports. You're able to understand what has been used in what and how that has been used in the best interest of citizens.
In the government's budgetary process, the National Assembly is front and center as an oversight institution for scrutiny and approval. However, this NAM is rather dissatisfied with the backlog of government's audited reports, which takes years to land before the National Assembly for legislative scrutiny.
The disaster has already been done. You can't undo it. So what is the essence of audit report in this country? What does it serve? What purpose does it serve? No purpose. It's not helping anybody to correct anything before the damage is big. You are looking at an audit report of 2016 and you still have 2019 here, 2020. When the die is already cast, what can you do with it? So, let us be. I think there is a lot more seriousness needed in this country than what we are in now.
Journalists are also given a share of the blame for the citizens' inadequate knowledge of the national budget for not reporting enough on the critical issues of government's fiscal activities. I asked one of my colleagues what the media has to offer in keeping the public informed on the budget and holding government to account.
When we talk about National Development Plan, it is backed by the budget. So to ensure that we and the government work together, to ensure that we achieve the National Development Plan objective, we need to make sure that the budget is something that we look at critically to ensure that the citizens' needs are reflected in there. So that means interviewing the communities, looking at their needs and feeding back that to the National Assembly. So it's a conversation which does not end. And then the National Assembly members will use that. And that's reflected when the changes they make in the budget.
In few hours' time, the next fiscal year begins during a pandemic that has ravaged global economies. And as the government looks forward to implementing new revenue measures with more recurrent expenditures, the anticipation from the taxpayers is that fiscal discipline, transparency and accountability will be the policy. Mahmoud Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
A family in Manjai have been rendered homeless after a fire outbreak in Manjai when the inferno burned down the entire family compound on Wednesday afternoon. Omar P. Jallo went to the scene and he fastened this report.
The Kintekunda family lost everything after a late afternoon fire gutted the entire family compound. At the time QTV visited the scene, the cause of the fire had not been established. However, family members believe an electrical malfunction caused the fire. The owner of the compound, Amadou Kinte, thanked the neighbors for their efforts to put out the fire and confirmed that the fire service responded stiffly, but the damage was already done before they could control the flames. I was in my room relaxing after the 2 p.m. press when the children ran into my room and informed me that there was smoke coming from my son's room. At first, I didn't take them seriously until my wife also rushed in to confirm it to me. That's when I rushed out of my room. Because of my old age, people took me to the next compound. Lamin Kinte, whose father owned the gutted compound, told QTV that though the fire did not claim any life, his family lost everything from cash, food, clothing, to everything sheltered in the house. On behalf of the family, he appeals for support from government, philanthropists, NGOs and individuals.
My wife passed away 4 months ago. I have all his materials packed in my cupboard because we couldn't see them out, because immediately she died, few weeks her father also passed away. So we couldn't have the chance to, share her materials, They were all packed together in my cupboard and I covered them. within my wardrobe. So many stuffs inside my house, and there were her cash also is there. She left 7,500 in the house. I packed it, and then some people owe her. They were trying to pay it. It's between 12,500, 13,500. I couldn't capture the exact amount, but it's in between them because monies were coming gradually.
The councillor for Bakote Ward, Lamin K. Jamme, said it is shocking and devastating to see people who are trying to struggle for a living with their family suffer a huge destruction of their property through fire. He adds that he will engage the NDMA and the council for support for the affected family. Although the fire service responded stiffly, Councillor Jamme expressed disappointment at the government for failing to properly equip the country's only fire and rescue service unit.
Even this morning, I was trying to communicate the regional coordinator of the NDMA. So he was not in office then I was calling. But I know I make sure that they are here before the end of the day to come and assess the damage caused. And I will also send the community development officer representing the ward to come and do the same assessment and send it to the council so that we can see how best both the council and the NDMA can quickly intervene into the Kinta families to, at least salvage them from this, awful situation.
Fire incidents are becoming a common occurrence in the Gambia. If safety precautions are not taken and the fire and rescue service are not equipped with modern fire engines and equipment, families will continue to suffer from the devastation and destructions that fires can cause. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
We will take another short commercial break, and when we come back, the news continues with some more local and international news stories. Do stay tuned. Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is Qtv News. In business news, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs has issued a press release about changes in fuel prices. The release states that from 1st January 2021, domestic pump prices of petrol will sell at $44.53 bututes, diesel will sell at $44.14 bututes, and kerosene will now sell at $36.25 bututes. Oil marketing companies are hereby advised to adhere to the above-mentioned prices. The Network of Financial and Tax Reporters, Gambia chapter, in collaboration with the Gambia Bankers Association, on Wednesday held a one-day information sharing forum on institutional mandates such as the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Omar P. Jallo has the rest of that.
The objective of the Network of Financial and Tax Reporters Gambia chapter is to serve as a watchdog to ensure fair play on tax payment between the business community, the government and tax authorities, and as well to educate and sensitize the public on the importance of tax. Abdullah Nyoke, the president of the Network of Financial and Tax Reporters Gambia chapter, said the media have an important role to play in helping protect the financial institutions from money laundering and terrorist financing threats. He assured the gathering of his network's commitment to raise public awareness on money laundering and terrorist financing and the dangers they pose to society.
Combating money laundering and terrorist financing being one of our core objectives, we deem it necessary to organize the information sharing forum to better discuss issue of concern to our national development. Ladies and gentlemen, this training will go a long way in helping the media to know how COVID-19 affected our business economy or revenue mobilization in this country. We all agree with me that 2020 was a very devastating year for all, particularly the business industry. Everything was locked down for the past 8 to 9 months, which have a cost negative impact in our economy.
The representative of Takaful Gambia Limited, Ibrahim Agay, said the forum can help establish a strong collaboration between journalists and the private sector to ensure journalists have in-depth knowledge of the roles of the private sector, especially the business community, in national development.
Journalists are important. What you do is very important. You guys have a noble profession. So keep up the good work.
Alif Seka, the guest speaker and the CEO of GCCI, said business journalism is needed for people to understand the implications businesses, economics and finance has on our day-to-day lives, adding that trained business journalists can change the mindset of the public who otherwise often been manipulated or tricked in believing most stories of official speeches that don't give much accurate information.
Recently, the EU introduced what they call the NTB Trade Barrier Platform, called the tradebarriers.africa. Again, I will encourage you to look at. But we need to get our governments, all 54 governments, to action and to respond to reported cases. Otherwise, it just becomes another event. We should not let one country's transport union, as some of you would already know and have seen in the past, decide what and how to do business across borders.
The NFTR Gambia chapter was established after a week-long intensive media engagement training for communicators and media practitioners organized by the African Tax Administration Forum Secretariat in Rwanda in March 2019, where participants identify ways through which tax authorities can work with the media in making citizens more active in terms of holding state accountable. Reporting for Qtv News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
In international news, Ethiopian woman Ajito Gidata, hailed as a symbol of integration in Italy, has been killed on her farm in northern Italy. Her murder has attracted international interest, appearing in numerous international media, including Reuters and the BBC. Here is a report by Mahmoud Mbouch.
Neighbors reportedly found 42-year-old Gudetta dead in her bedroom after being contacted by one of her friends who was concerned because she had not turned up to an appointment. According to an Italian news agency, her Ghanaian employee on her farm has admitted to raping her and killing her with a hammer. Police have arrested the 32-year-old employee who worked as a shepherd at her farm and lived in her house. He allegedly told investigators that he had fought with Gudetta over money because he had not received his monthly salary and that he had then attacked her with a hammer. Citizens and politicians across Italy have expressed their pain and outrage over her murder. In her lifetime, Ajito Gudetta's life story in Italy had been widely featured in the international media, where she was held up as a migrant success story at a time of rising hostility towards immigrants, fueled by the right-wing Northern League Party. Ajito Gudetta migrated to Italy in 2010 and settled in the northern part of the country in a farm and started a goat farming and organic cheese business. She became a leading producer in her province and won awards for her product. She named her farm La Capra Felice, the happy goat. She told Reuters in an interview that she started off with 15 goats and by 2018 she had 180. Further adding, I created my space and made myself known. There was no resistance to me. She fled Ethiopia because her activism against land grabbing had landed her on the wrong side of the authorities, whom the activists have accused of setting aside large swathes of farmland for foreign investors. On reaching Italy, she was able to use a common land in the northern mountains to build her new enterprise, taking advantage of permits that give farmers access to public land to prevent it from being reclaimed by nature. A statement released by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, reads, despite her tragic end, UNHCR hopes that Ajito Gudetta will be remembered and celebrated as a model of success and integration that will inspire refugees who are fighting to rebuild their lives. For QTV News, I am Mahmoud Mbouch.
Before we end this news bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories. President Barrow has used his end-of-year speech to look back on the troubled year of 2020, as well as to look forward with hope to 2021. We heard from the police how they hope to keep everyone safe at one of the most popular locations where revelers meet to welcome in the new year. We heard from New Year's messages the heads of the Methodist, Anglican and Catholic churches in the Gambia. A witness at the TRRC told the Commission of her ordeal after being arrested and detained for 8 days after going to support UDP leaders who were facing court proceedings. A coalition comprising civil society organizations, National Assembly members and members of the public have held a dialogue on the 2021 national budget. In business news, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs has issued a press release about changes in fuel prices that will take effect from 1st January 2021. In international news, an Ethiopian immigrant in Italy who ran a successful farm business has been found murdered at her farm. A reminder that the full video of President Adama Barrow's New Year's message can be seen immediately after this news bulletin. Well, that is all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. On behalf of the entire team, we are wishing you a happy 2021. Do stay tuned.